Hi everyone, it's Ryu1940 with a different style of video for War on the Sea today. Today we're going to go and talk about and conduct some anti-submarine warfare. I tend to see ASW questions frequently from new players, and this can be like a source of frustration. And I hope that this can kind of shed some light on some of the intricacies of ASW in this game and make it more enjoyable, because a lot of times if you're not reading the manual or anything like that, it's just going to be incredibly complicated to decipher yourself. So as for me, many of you may not know, but I used to be a sonar technician in the Navy for 7 years, and I was a sonar supervisor for two types of warships in my time, and I absolutely love ASW. I think it's incredibly fun. Now this game's very different from real life modern ASW, but it touches on some of the things that affect sonar in real life. Like you've got layer depths, you've got ambient noise levels changing with the environmental conditions, you've got simulation of flow noise and own ship noise affecting your hydrophones and stuff like that. So it's pretty great. Now there are some limitations that I hope will be addressed in the future. I would love to see map tools so that we can mark contacts and do some sort of like target motion analysis of the contacts, and I think it would really help you find a submarine and also prosecute it. I'd also love if the submarines actually have to use the up periscope while targeting surface vessels, because right now you sort of get lucky if you're using your binoculars on one of the ships you've selected, and you might catch a portion of like the down periscope broaching the waves, and you'll see that I actually use that method a lot to try and find the submarine initially and start chasing after it. Anyways, let's get into it, and I'll show you a quick way to do some ASW practice so you can hone those skills, and hopefully you can start smashing all the submarines that the AI like loves to throw at you in the campaign mode. So let's get started. Okay, so we've got War on the Sea loaded. At the main menu, we can select Custom Battle. Okay, and now we've got this map. We can add units by clicking the magnifying glass or hitting F6. So we'll play as I play as the IGN when I'm playing through the campaign. So we'll select an American submarine. Yep, that's fine. Okay, so now we can drag this around anywhere we want. And so that's good. We'll make him, let's say he's going east. Okay, maybe a couple knots. Okay, so that's good. And now we want to add some Japanese destroyers. Okay, so one of the things you need to think about when you're doing escorting and stuff like that is, does this ship have sonar, passive sonar, or active sonar? Okay, and another thing to look at is, does it have depth charges? So you can do that by clicking on the sensor's armor page, and you'll see that this class of destroyer doesn't have any sonar active or passive. Okay, and you can see on the weapons button here that if it did have depth charges, it would say so right here. So this ship should not be used for ASW. Okay, it's just a waste of time. All right, so we can select a different class, and we'll check again. So we'll go to Sensors and Armor. Okay, so we've got passive sonar. It's 32 nautical miles. This is a range in the best case for the loudest targets. Okay, it doesn't mean that it's going to pick up a submarine all the time at 32 nautical miles. It's probably never going to do that. And then the active sonar range is 1 nautical mile. Once again, in the best conditions. Okay, so that's about, what, 2,000 yards. So keep that in mind. And now we'll check for the weapons. Okay, it does, like I said, it's got anti-submarine depth charges listed here, so that's good. Okay, so we can add this unit, and we'll go ahead and add a few. So we can go to statistics here and change the name to add another one in the class. Usually in my campaign I have 3 destroyers in a group as sort of like a hunter-killer group for submarines, because I find, a lot of times I need to kill some submarines and they're probably not within the range of air cover. So sometimes I can get them with these destroyer groups. Alright, so we'll make these guys change the side to red, change our play side to red, and we'll be going north. So I think the campaign speed when you bump into subs for destroyers is like 20 knots or something, so we'll do that. Yeah, we'll be to the submarine's starboard side this way, because he's going this way, going eastward. we're going northward, so we're going to get intercepted by the submarine. Okay, and I usually have my destroyer groups in a line ahead formation with 1,000 yards of spacing. So, well, that's all good. Now you can save this, and we'll call it something. So DD practice. Oops, what did I say? DD practice. Okay, ASW. And let's move that out so we can see. So we got that, and we can save it, and we can go back. Okay, so now if you ever want to practice this, you just can load it up and go to tactical, and you can start playing. So let's go to tactical. Okay, so when you hit the tactical button, you're presented with this overhead map, and it gives us some important stuff that we need to look at for ASW. And in the conditions for the environment, we can see the weather. And if that's rainy as opposed to clear right now, that would actually reduce our ranges 50% in the game, because the rain creates a lot of environmental background noise. Okay, and then another one that affects us greatly with ASW is the sea state. Not so much as the rain, but as you increase in sea state, there's more wave action, so that produces a lot more ambient noise in the ocean. Okay, so it makes it harder to detect a submarine. And the other important one is the layer depth, the layer strength, and the duct strength. So in this instance, the layer depth is 246 feet. So if a submarine is below 246 feet, say he's at 300 feet, then he's affected, and we're affected by this layer strength number. So basically, the range that we would normally have in normal conditions against this submarine, we times that by 0.89, and that gives us, in this case, it's an 11% reduction in the range that we would detect the submarine. Okay, so this value is always changing. I think it's sort of randomized too. I think if you redid this over and over again, you kind of get different numbers here. But that affects our ranges, and then the duct strength is the opposite of that. If he's above the layer, so if he's closer to the surface, let's say he's at 100 feet as opposed to 246 feet, he's affected, and we're affected by this number called the duct strength, and it's 1.3. So that means you take our normal range that we would find this submarine on a normal day, in normal conditions, and then we multiply it by this number, and then we get the actual range that we're going to find the submarine at. So in this case, it's really good. It's actually a 30% increase in the range that we would detect the submarine. And that goes both ways. So the submarine actually can find us better too. If he's above the layer, he can actually detect us at 30% or 30% increase in range of detection for surface vessels as well. So these factors all play into ASW, and so it's really good to take a look at that, because sometimes things are not going to be in your favor, and it's just kind of best to avoid the fight if you can. Alright, so we'll go ahead and hit start. Okay, and we're making 18 knots. Now, in this scenario, once again, we're going to head north this way, and the sub's going to be off somewhere around here. And the unfortunate thing about this game is that I don't think the AI subs have a periscope that's shown when they attack. I think you can see parts of a down periscope if the wave action allows that. Like you'll see the model of the periscope, but it's in the down position. Now, if the periscope was forced to be up if they were attacking, it'd make spotting a lot easier. So we can close this out and so we'll take a look here, because then it would actually give you a reason to use your binoculars. Just as the lookouts did, spotting for torpedo wakes, and oh, there it is. See that? I don't know if you can see it. Looked to be a bit of a periscope that popped out of the waves. Yep, there it is right there again. So it's over here. Okay, so we see that. It's about 330, so we're going to come left 330. And we're also going to slow. Actually, no, we'll keep our speed up for now. So we need to come to 330. still right here. Now, one of the big things I see that a lot of people do is they say they can't find the submarine, and a lot of times they're depending on their sensors, but they're just going too fast. You know, if we're going close to 20 knots, or trying to make 20 knots, or going 18 knots, we're not going to find this passively. You're just not going to. It's too noisy. There's too much flow noise and stuff like that over the hydrophones, so you're not going to detect the submarine. So visually is your best bet. And a lot of times in the campaign map, I think what happens is if you're not, as a surface group, if you're not going to be ambushed by the submarine when you go into the game map or the tactical battle with the destroyer group against the submarine, um, that sub can be very far away, and you know you're not going to be able to find him anyways. So you can just leave the battle if you're not going to get fired at. Um, Otherwise, because I don't know how the game is designed, but you know, in real life you would assume that the submarine is actually trying to kill you, and so for them to do that, they'd have to be closing you. Um, and if you were to just do that in the game, that could take forever if the guy's across the actual map, you know, because if they're submerged, they're only making like 8 knots tops. So if you're not fired at and you come into the tactical map like immediately or very quickly, then you might as well just leave that battle and wait for a reset. If you do get ambushed by a submarine, that's great because then you get an idea of where he's at because he's going to shoot at you. Okay, so we got the periscope still right here. We're still closing him, doing 20, trying to make 20 knots to get to him. Now, what I'm going to do, which is going to be a little dangerous here, is we don't have a marker system on the map, which is unfortunate because I wish I could point something out on the map to have like a reference point, because it's really hard to see how close we are to him. Alright, so getting pretty close here. I want to break my ships off. So we'll do break formation. Okay. And still closing this guy. It's right here if you can't see. And I want a Segumo. Ooh, we just narrowly avoided some torpedo shots and we didn't even know it. Look at that. Oh, look at that spread. So this is what I was talking about with the ambush position. Like, if you were fired at when you got into the tactical mode, you would know where this kind of the direction of the submarine's at. Okay, so these torpedoes are going to go by this guy. We need to make sure this guy is not going to get destroyed by a torpedo. Okay, we'll turn out of the way, get between these two torpedoes here. There's one here, and there's one here. Alright, so the lead guy's, I think, getting pretty close. I think the sub's around here somewhere right where we last saw. So we're going to reduce our speed to, say, 10 knots right now. And we're going to see if we could pick them up passively. So with the passive sonar, you don't have to do anything. Oh, see, we slowed down, and once we got to 12 knots, we detected him immediately. It's right there. Okay, so we can target him. Alright. Well, this might get set up pretty quickly. I need to make sure this guy's safe. Alright, he's going through the torpedo pattern. That's good. Okay, so I'm going to slow down Asagumo to, say, 5 knots. We're going to slow down. Actually, we'll keep him going at his current speed. Let's all target the sub. Actually, slow him down to about 15 knots, or 12 knots is good. What I want to do is set someone up to go kind of on the side of the contact, and someone to wait in the back behind the lead ship to attack after this guy, the lead ship's attacked. Okay, so we're almost over him. I usually set up a 3 pattern. Now, let's see where he's at. He's going 325. Okay. So he's going 7 knots. So when you're doing ASW as a surface vessel, speed is like your best weapon against the submarines. They're capped at like 8 knots, I think, in the best conditions, 8 or 9 knots. Okay, and you're a destroyer. You can blitz through the waves at least 20 knots and easily, in a lot of cases, over 30 knots, right? So it's a trade-off. You can get to the target faster, but then you can't see the target, so you need to slow down, which is what we did. We got into the area, and then we slowed down, and we were able to detect them. Okay, so this is going to be a botch pass, I think. Yeah, I don't know. We can try it. We'll fire it. Usually I wait till we're about halfway over the ship, or the submarine, sorry, and try an attack. I wish this game had visual cues if you actually hit the target, like a different color smoke or something. It doesn't have that, so we're not sure. So we lost the target because, we sped up and we got pretty loud. So we're gonna come around here. We'll have Asaguma, which was the second ship, kind of speed up a little bit, maybe to 10 knots. And we're gonna come around here. We'll try to set up a big wheel here, come in for the second attack if we need it. Slow him down to 12 knots so he can hopefully detect the guy. Okay, let's talk about the active sonar here. So you can turn that on and off, right? Active sonar is not how you should be doing your searches if you're actually looking for a submarine. Usually that's sort of the final bit of tracking before you attack it, but it's even not necessary if you've got a good passive track on the sub. And I say you should not use this as a primary search method because the range on this in the best conditions is 1 nautical mile. That's 2,000 yards, and that's in the best conditions. So in the sea state that we're in, and if this guy was below the layer, it just would not be worthwhile to use it, because when you're using this, I think your ship loses the ability for a passive track. So we're going to turn that off, because that's also dependent on a big array of factors, and one of the biggest ones of that is, okay, so we went passive, and then once again we've got contact again for the submarine. He's right off the nose here. So we're going to come to the left a little bit and speed up to 10 knots. Conduct an attack. This guy's going to slow down to maintain the track. We're going to probably keep him at the speed. Oh, the timbre is going 0 knots, so we'll zero him out. Okay, it looks like the timbre sub is actually increasing or it's coming to the surface, so it must have been damaged in that attack, and it's now done an emergency blow. Okay, so this is kind of dangerous here. We've got to get out of the way because this guy's going to surface, and we don't want to be in the line of fire of any of the other ships. This is also why I do keep some ships off in the distance. So when the sub inevitably surfaces, we can have some guns on target. Okay, this guy should be good. We'll just increase the speed to maximum and get out of the way. This guy come far left here. Okay, max speed, get out of the way. And we'll let this guy who was tracking him actually fire on him. Should be great because it looks like we can get a couple guns on target. What I don't like about the subs on this when they surface, at least for the AI, they are very, very, very quick to get a shot off from their deck gun, and I don't think that's realistic at all. I think the moment that they broach the surface, they can fire on you, which is a little crazy. Alright, so we're going to sit here and wait. Actually, we can probably, I guess we'll cruise at 2 knots, come around a little bit. Okay, the sub is still surfacing. You can see that in the depth changing. It's increasing, coming up to the surface. So yeah, don't use active for searching. That is going back to that. That is just crazy. You're not going to find the submarine unless you're right on top of it. Okay, so you should use that maybe for like a tracking fix at the end. And what I was trying to say about that was active sonar. A lot of a lot of its success is dependent on Doppler. So the submarine actually has to try to be actually has to be moving for you to be successful using the active sonar. In this case, because it was probably damaged in the depth charge attack, it wasn't going any speed anymore. It was making 0 knots. Okay, so active sonar most likely was not going to work very well. And it takes away your greatest range searching ability with which is the passive every time you're going active. Alright, the sub should be broaching soon. Is that him over there, I think? Yep. Just make sure we can fire some HE at it. Okay. I hit the attack button, and there it is. Okay. There we go. Yep, and now he's sinking. Alright, that was easy. I was about to start getting my other ships to shoot at him and get more guns on this guy and just put him down real quick. There we have it. So you can practice these scenarios in the battle editor thing that comes with the game. In the campaign mode, it's hard to say how the game mechanic really works with submarines because when they're in the ambush position where the submarine can actually fire you, you can't be. I think you can't have the submarine detected by like aircraft or anything like that. You just kind of have to stumble into them. And if that happens, I personally like that because while they do fire torpedoes at you, with the destroyers, you're so much smaller and more nimble to avoid them. And I was actually kind of surprised because I thought and I saw in the latest patch notes that we would get some sort of torpedo icons or something on the map, but I guess that I must have misread that or something. So that's why I wasn't really paying attention to inbound torpedoes. But so yeah, if you get into a tactical battle with a submarine and from your dynamic campaign and you cannot find him, and within the first few minutes you're not fired on or anything, I would just assume that that submarine is somewhere far away on the same battle map and you're not likely going to bump into each other. The game doesn't have um, periscope spotting, I guess, so you're not going to have lookouts report a direction that you should be traveling in to even find the guy. You can just cruise around forever and really not find him. Um, Also, remember if you're actually trying to search for him, and you want to take your time to search for him, you have to be doing this at like 12 knots or less in a destroyer to use the to have a chance with your hydrophones to be able to detect him passively. But once again, there's a bunch of conditions that we went over with the environment that can affect that and reduce it dramatically. So, pretty much a big waste of your time. I just like to engage submarines with my destroyers in the scenarios that we've been ambushed and they fired on us because that gives me a point to drive towards and then prosecute the submarine. This is actually quite interesting. I been sitting here driving around with the time compression trying to get my destroyers back into formation as I talk to you guys, and we sunk this sub, but it actually has surfaced again, so it's kind of interesting. I didn't realize that it would do something like that. This is actually pretty helpful too because this is what I wanted to point out with the periscopes. I think if you see any sort of periscope, I think you're just seeing this bit break through the waves because every time I detect something like this visually using the binoculars, it's usually just this little portion that's peeking out over the water. And I really wish enemy submarines had to raise their periscopes to fire on ships, because that would help you spot them, and that would help you find a place to drive towards to prosecute a submarine and take it out. It's just unfortunate because right now I think they're just sort of blind firing without using any periscopes, and that puts you on the surface at a tremendous disadvantage because you basically have to wait until you see torpedoes coming at you. And in real life, you know, you'd have lookouts on the bridge wings, on the bow, on the stern, and stuff like that, all looking out for periscopes. So yeah. With that being said, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions about ASW, please just leave a comment on below in the video, and then I'll try to get to that as soon as possible and kind of give you some answers, hopefully, because I find it actually pretty fun. When I was in the Navy, we used to jokingly call ASW awfully slow warfare, and that was true most of the times because some of these battle problems would last for a long time, like a few hours and stuff. And but when it gets exciting, it gets exciting real quick because at least in this case in World War II, you're driving right over the enemy submarine. And to do that, you need to get in its torpedo bubble and everything. So I really enjoy this part of the game, and I think with a little bit of improvement, that could make it a lot more fun. So, well, if you have any questions, once again, please leave them in the comments below, and yeah, we'll see you again later. Bye.